In God we trust. Everyone else must bring data. This was not only just a tagline on my college t shirt, but frankly, my religion. I was all of 21 and I believed life works like mathematics. You input effort, you output success. It seemed to work for me. I studied at the Indian Statistical Institute, one of the toughest institute in the country. And upon my placement with the leading life insurance organization, I went on to become an actuary. At work, I used to talk to the computer in the number language. I used to write codes and draw charts and show PowerPoint slides to people and tell them what to do. And with every additional exam that I cleared, this tagline embedded itself into my belief system. In God we trust, everyone else must bring data. A philosophy, an outlook, a path. Several years of walking down that straight line path, well, life happened. It first began with a few fainting episodes, then stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, autoimmune disorder, a number of tests, scans, weeks of bed rest, and finally the doctors gave me the sentence. I was one step away from quadriplegia. At first it sounded unfair and then humbling. I remember lying on this MRI tube and metals clanking all around me, and I was wondering, how on earth did I get here? Where did I get the maths wrong? Because the lines had blurred, time had slowed down, and healing looked like one day at a time. From then to now, I have seen breakdowns and breakthroughs in equal parts. From not being able to leave the bed to get up to answer the door, to starting to journal, to write blogs, to columns, to writing a book, to writing film scripts, to walking down the red carpet at Cannes, to talking on the TEDx stage many times, and now today in front of you. Life has surprised me. But those were still external success. What really moved the needle was perhaps the moments that I spent in self reflection. Over several Vipassana meditation retreats, many long days of complete silence, closed eyes, deep breaths. And it is in those moments that I finally realized this truth. Life is no mathematics. No amount of data could have predicted how it turned out for me, or why we do what we do, how we build relationships, how we make decisions, how we take actions. It was not data that was driving the scene. It was emotions. Emotions such as trust, fear, love, hope, perspectives. A light bulb goes off. As in life, so at work. Then what was I thinking, showing people all those bar diagrams and pie charts and telling them what to do? I stand corrected. My map has shifted and my mask has dropped. And over years of working with leaders and founders with the power of storytelling, I know this now. It is not enough. It is not enough to inform. To make a difference, we need to inspire. We need facts with feelings. We need numbers with narratives. And for that, your data needs a story. So here I am today, not as an actuary with a data set, but as a storyteller with 3 stories to tell you. For the first story, let me admit, I did not find this one in my statistics syllabus or even my actuarial study material. Actually, I found this story in my class 6 history textbook. A chapter titled The Lady with the Lamp. Do you know that Florence Nightingale was not only a very kind nurse, but also a brilliant statistician and perhaps the earliest data storyteller recorded in history? All the way back in the 19th century, during the Crimean War, she found a startling fact that more number of soldiers were dying due to infections rather than the battlefield, real war. She rushed with the raw mortality data and took them to the parliament, but the politicians dismissed her. They were far more interested in winning the war than to actually fix the medical system. So she did something radical. She took these numbers and converted them into visual diagrams. The iconic rose diagram. It is these diagrams that finally made the difference. It moved the parliament, it changed the public health policies, and it changed and saved thousands of soldiers' lives. And her iconic rose diagram goes down in history as the earliest evidence of data storytelling. What can we learn from her today? Yeah, reliability, trust, ethos, that it is not enough to be qualified or to be accurate. We need more. For that, we need to understand the human problem. We need to get into the skin of the game. We need to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who we want to help. And for that, as actuaries, our policyholders, our shareholders, our claimants, as a software coder, maybe your last end user, or as a leader, her team or her board members, we need to understand the business problem and we need to get into the skin of the people. We need to develop reliability. And for that, your data needs a story. Before I tell you the next point, give me a moment. What clean air! I'm envious. You see, I'm flying down from Delhi this morning and the air is plain unbreathable. The AQI has actually crossed 1000 in some of the pockets. Wait, what does that piece of data even mean? My daughter asks me, Mom, is school off on Monday? Some of my friends are updating their CVs to relocate out of the city. The hospital OBTs are full. Meanwhile, the sale of masks and air purifiers are through the roof. And for the politicians, well, just one single number. So many faces. Different people, different perspectives, different. But the thing is that when I used to be an actuary, I was completely blindsided by this aspect. I was a proud subject matter expert, remember? So I would burn the proverbial midnight oil, running 17 business scenarios correct to the fourth place of decimal and show people these numbers, fill up the charts and the diagrams, and if they still had more questions, I would throw more data at them. What I did not know then, I know now. And sorry, it's shocking. I realized that people don't get up in the morning thinking about my data set. They get up in the morning thinking about their own problems. And all that they are asking me is, how can you help me? How does this work for me? And now with years of workshopping and coaching and mentoring several teams and leaders and founders, I know this now. It is not enough for us to be informed. We need to inspire. In any room that I am in, I always see two patterns, two kinds of people. The technical leaders who get it mostly right, comprehensive, accurate, but context, not so much. And then there are business leaders who put the why before the what. And then they give you exactly as much data as you need in order to act. And it is this rationality, logos, cause and effect, problem and solution. It is this that you need to move from takeaway into a compelling call to action. But then people are also asking one more question. Why do I care? And to answer that, I talk about Saint Exupéry, the author of The Little Prince, because he said something beautifully. He said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect the wood. Teach them to dream of the immensity of the sea. But what has literature got to do with business communication? Because Many years later, you see the exact same sentiment echo on a very different stage. January 2001, Steve Jobs takes the stage to launch the next Apple product. He pulls out this tiny gadget from his jeans pocket. No technical jargons, no product specs, no mention of battery life or competition, nothing. One simple sentence. 1,000 songs in your pocket. What a masterstroke. iPod is born. Ladies and gentlemen, no more carrying around transistors, no more buying vinyl records, no more storage space. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Relatability, pathos, emotions. To talk to their dreams, to invite them on a quest, to get them on a journey. I suggest that it is this that really moves the needle. The reliability, the rationality, the ethos, logos. It is this, and for that, your data needs a story. Don't get me wrong, this is not about data versus story. This is actually about data and story. Because data, of course, gives us the facts, but stories add the feelings. Data organizes the past, and stories show the future. Data builds the structure. Stories build beliefs. And Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel-winning psychologist and behavioral economist, he puts it very simply. Nobody ever made a decision because of a number. They need a story. Why is that? Because think of it. All number problems are actually business problems. And all business problems are people problems. And people are just like you and me. We take in the data, but we need feelings. It is not enough to be informed. We need to be inspired, to be driven, to take action. And for that, the facts need feelings, the narratives need more, and your data needs a story. Because the times are shifting. Workplace culture, leadership, communication is changing right in front of our eyes. The fabric of work is changing. The future of work is here. In these times, with automation, with AI and machine learning, it is not enough for us to just extract data and process it and analyze it and put it on a chart and show it to people. No. In fact, I would say that our job really starts where the spreadsheets have ended. And for that, we need more. We need more. It is only those among us who make meaning, who drive purpose, who act, who put their skin in the game, who have ethos, logos, and pathos, who is reliable and rational and relatable. Only those will be the ones of the future of leadership. And so I invite each one of you, bring your hearts to work. The next time you speak to people or you have a presentation, build a context, create a character, show them a dream, bring them on a quest, invite them on a journey, tell a story. And for myself, I often think back at that 21-year-old version of me, back in the campus, starry-eyed, ready to take on the world. If I could, I would reach out to her and hold her hand and I would tell her that you can and you should. You only need to make one small change in that tagline. In God you trust. Everyone else must bring a story. Thank you.